I'm Cecilia.
And I'm Kristen.
And I'm the VP of Debate.
And I'm the Secretary of Debate.
And we're going to be talking about the differences between persuasive and informative extemp speaking.
And just extemp as a whole, because we know that you may not know how to do it exactly or don't have enough information, and so we're going to outline the differences. Cecilia does persuasive and I do informative, so we're just going to teach you a little bit about both of them.
So extemp is a part of speech and debate, and you get 30 minutes to prep, and then you write a 7-minute speech, or you try to speak for up to 7 minutes.
And you can only use the files you have saved on your computer, so at tournaments you can't access the internet while in the competition, and so we use a thing at Vandergrift called Extemp Genie. And so if you have any interest in doing extemp at a tournament, talk to Ms. Matthews and we can get the program downloaded onto your computer.
Alrighty, so about persuasive extemp, for both forms of extemp you can use a note card, and Kristen and I format our note cards very differently, so we're going to show you kind of 2 ways that you can format your note cards, just so that you guys can kind of get an idea of the basics, because I know when we started we didn't know how to format it or what we were doing, so we just kind of went learning, and hopefully soon this will help you. So you guys can see a picture of the note card here. Basically for me, I like to use just one side of the note card because it makes it seem in my head like it's less to memorize, and I don't have to forget to flip it back and forth, but I know that for Kristen it works better for her to use both sides. I always start off by putting at the top the room number, section number, and speaker number. You have a section, and each section has a different room. You can be section 1, 2, 3, 4, however many people are enrolled, and then a speaker number. And that's really important because if you're a first speaker, obviously you have to go first. Third speaker goes third, and that they tell you your time based on your speaker number. So they'll call you up saying speaker 3 from each section, come and pick your topic, and then they'll tell you speaker 3, you have 15 more minutes or something. So it's really important for you to remember that. And it's also very important for you to keep the slip of paper that has your topic on it. So in terms of the actual speech, I always start off my note card by writing at the top. I try not to take up a lot of space on my note card because I don't want to have to memorize a ton of things. What extemp is really good at is helping you learn to elaborate on your thoughts on the spot. So you can kind of have ideas of how you're going to elaborate on your main points of the speech while you're coming up with them, but you don't necessarily have to write them down on the note card right away. So for the beginning, I start off with an intro. You can do something funny or creative, kind of an analogy that hooks people's attention. It's kind of like when you're writing an essay. You want to make sure that you do that so that people don't get bored. So you have to say your topic, and it has to be almost word for word what the slip has. Some judges are very picky about that, so just make sure that you memorize your topic. And then you take your position. For persuasive extemp, you take a yes or no position, which is why I like persuasive. And then you say your thesis, which is going to be kind of a roadmap for the judge. And so the thesis is going to be the reasons why you support your point. And then sometimes I like to include a source. You want to try to have up to 6 or 7 sources in your speech. That's ideally what's going to get you to do the best in, especially UIL tournaments and even TFA tournaments. They really want to see sources. So you have to say the date and the company that it was published from. So you can say CNN on November 23rd, 2017 or something like that. So I usually like to include that as a point, just to kind of start as a background generalization point, just to kind of start off my speech. And then I go into kind of the body paragraphs as I think about it. I kind of think of outlining STEM speech like you would an essay. So I have 3 main points that I discussed in my thesis or roadmap. And I have, on my note card, I have a source and then a quote. And then another source and a quote. And I can kind of elaborate on those. For the conclusion, I just kind of summarize my 3 points, again, kind of go through the roadmap and tie it back to my intro. So you just want to make sure everything is cohesive. What we do is we do an extemp walk. For me, I do my extemp walk slightly different than Kristen. She starts off to another side, but it's essentially the same shape. So I start off kind of a little bit in the middle between me and the judge and the speaking area, and then when I start off my first body paragraph, I move over to one side, and then the second body paragraph you move kind of closer to the middle, and the third body paragraph you move over to the side, and then you kind of end a little closer up than you started. Now you don't want to just make it seem like you're moving 1, 2, 3. You want it to make it more flowy, and once you're starting to move on to connect one paragraph to another, you can kind of start walking and explaining while you're walking, just to make sure that everything in terms of body language, in terms of speaking, in terms of content, everything is clear, uniform, and concise.
Okay, so I do informative, and informative and persuasive are very different because in persuasive you can add your own like personal touch to it. You add in what you really think, but persuasive, you don't put your, I mean, for informative you don't put your opinion in it, and it's purely the facts and what actually happened. And I start out my speech the same way every time, and I use something called the 7-point introduction. So you start off with a hook, like an attention-getting device. You could be a joke, a statistic, something shocking, because you want to engage the listener and you want to engage the judges and make sure they're interested, because the first thing that you say, the first impression you make is going to determine how captivated they are in the rest of your speech. And then you move into the link. And so after you do your attention-getting device, you link it back to your topic. And so this can just provide like a foundation for your speech. And then you move into the background. So the background is providing any background information, just a quick sentence or two on like what the topic is about, and just giving like a few facts on what's happened. And then you move into the significance. So after you state the background information, you say why it's important, why it affects society, and really why it has an impact. After significance, you state the question. And so that, you should memorize the question completely, word for word. After you state the question and answer, you give 3 reasons or 3 things that you're going to talk about in your speech. And so that sets up like 3 body paragraphs, I guess, for your speech to, finish. And so so for each reason, I have 2 sources, and then I have 1 in my intro, so that makes 7 overall. You want to have like good information in your speech, but the way that you present it is more important than anything, and people forget that a lot. I do format my note card a little different from Cecilia. I use both sides, and we both use note cards, and we don't, you don't take that into the room. Some people do. You get knocked off points for that, and I think it almost seems unprofessional. So you have 30 minutes in total. I do 10 and 20. So I get all the facts on there as fast as I can. I don't even write that much. I write my 3 points, and you can see a picture of it, but I have my topic at the top, just 3 points, like 1 or 2 words each, and on the back I have facts, 2 facts that correlate to each topic, and that will provide me with my 7 sources. Transitions are so important, and judges do notice that, because it does look a little blocky if you're just kind of going from one place to the other, and so because of that you need to have transitions. So what I try to do, and I learned this year, and I think it's definitely helped me in tournaments, is that at the end of my last point, or at the end of my last sentence in a point, I bring up something that follows into the next point. And so because of that, it flows continuously. So while I'm saying that sentence, I start to walk, and then when I get there, I bring up the point. And because of this, it just flows better, and the transitions just make the speech sound better in general.